Kern County Library is delighted to partner with the North of the River Recreation and Park District on this panel discussion to help highlight the 50th anniversary of their very special non-motorized Christmas parade and the historic sites along the route, as well as the community of Oildale. Kern County Library is also very excited to announce the reopening of our Kern County Local History Room at the Memorial Library and at this event, and to continue to showcase our newly renovated Rathbun Library. A big thank you to the Rathbun Library staff who helped with Christmas in July to help capture North of the River Christmas Parade memories from community members, and for providing innovative programming to help promote the Christmas parade this year. This event would not have been possible without the steadfast dedication, research, and photographs provided by local historical researchers and community members. Fred and Linda Enyart, please give them a big round of applause. They helped put together the pamphlet along with North of the River Recreation and Parks, which has the parade route and information about historic sites along the route, and photographs that Fred and Linda researched and provided to create the brochure. So please make sure you get one of these before you go. And also I would like to thank Jasmine Labasso for her steadfast vision and guidance from North of the River Recreation and Park. She is the Superintendent of Recreation and Community Services. She's with us here today. And yes, big round of applause for Jasmine. She used to work with the library. We miss her very much. Due to a scheduling conflict with one of our panelists, the panel discussion will have to end at 5 p.m. Panelists will be asked to respond to prompts, and each response will have to be limited to 3 minutes each. I have a timekeeper at the back. Wave your hand, timekeeper. That's Michael. He's the branch supervisor. Please give him a big round of applause as well. Thank you, Michael. He will flash a yellow piece of paper to indicate that you have 30 seconds left, and red when you need to stop talking. So please keep an eye on him so you know when we need to wrap it up, that way we can stay on schedule. And if we finish early, we'll have time for a Q&A. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our distinguished panelists and also thank them for participating in this event. As we all know, 'tis the season and schedules are tight, so we are very appreciative of your presence here today and your contributions to this discussion. The first panelist I would like to introduce is Fred Tom Enyart, contestant number 2 from the left. Oildale community member and local historian, Fred was born in 1962 in Oildale in the old egg ranch at 1504 Norris Road that he now shares with his lovely wife Linda in the back. Raise your hand, there's Linda, who also helped us with the research for the panel today. We had many meetings at Deal. Fred went to Beardsley K through 8th, then North High School, graduating in 1980. He has seen many changes in his 60-plus years in this town. Around 2007, Fred started getting involved in the community to help Oildale prosper. Along with his passion to help Oildale succeed came a love for its history. Fred has helped to research a lot of Oildale history, and we are happy he is here today to share his knowledge with us. Thank you, Fred. Our next panelist and Kern County District 3 Supervisor is Jeff Flores, to the right. Jeff has been fighting side by side with local officials, nonprofits, and private businesses to improve the quality of life for the Oildale community for decades. He has recently been elected to the Kern County Board of Supervisors, representing District 3, and has been elected by his peers to serve as the board's chairman for 2023. Previously, Jeff worked as a manager of government affairs and communities for Rio Tinto Minerals, representing the company among government, industry, and community stakeholders. He also managed the Borax Educational Scholarship Foundation, assisting many students with access to higher education and community philanthropy. He is proud and humbled to serve as District 3 Supervisor, where he will focus on the critical issues of public safety, quality of life for everyone who has the privilege of calling Kern County home. Also promoting economic development, I should have added there, and improving quality of life for everyone who has privilege of calling Kern County home. Please give him a big round of applause. Our third panelist is Mike McCoy, Executive Director of Kern County Museum. Mike grew up in Bakersfield and graduated from North High. He has a master's degree in public administration from Chico State and BA and Ph.D. from UC Santa Barbara. He is a graduate of the Harvard School of Negotiation and was a Fulbright Fellow in Argentina. Mike retired as school superintendent in 2017 and has served as the executive director of the Kern County Museum for 5 years. Mike has been active in Rotary for 20 years and is currently in the Downtown Club. Big round of applause for Mike. Thank you, Mike. Our fourth and final panelist is Jasmine Labasso, Superintendent of Recreation and Community Services for North of the River Recreation and Parks District. Homegrown in Bakersfield, Jasmine Labasso is passionate about bringing awareness to local programs, highlighting resources available to residents, partnering together to invest in the community, and has over a decade of experience in marketing public services and developing community programming. Jasmine is the Superintendent of Recreation and Community Services for the North of the River Recreation and Parks District, where she supports recreation programs and awareness of parks in the North of the River community. Big round of applause for Jasmine. Thank you. Now moving on to the discussion. Panelists are asked to limit their responses again to 3 minutes each. Please keep an eye on the timekeeper. Question prompt number 1. We're going to start with Jasmine. We're here today in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the annual North of the River Christmas Parade. This year. Tell us a little bit about the parade and what makes it such a special community tradition.
So the North of the River Christmas Parade is an annual parade that we have held in the Oildale area since 1973. This is our 50th anniversary. It was originally known as the Children's Christmas Parade, and it was focused on particularly participation of young youth in the area. They were encouraged to dress up in storybook character costumes, which is one of the reasons I think it's really special that we're hosting the panel here at the library, is because it was focused on reading. So a lot of the characters we saw were characters like from The Wizard of Oz or various different books that were popular at the time. The parade, when it was started, just the year before, the Bakersfield Parade had actually been canceled. And I'm not exactly sure why it was canceled. At the point, the Bakersfield Parade had been going for about 3 years, and it got canceled. When it got canceled, it ended up having a hiatus of about 10 years. And so because of that, that is why we've been able to swoop in with our title and get the longest running continuous Christmas parade in Bakersfield, is because of that hiatus. Additionally, at the same time, the 1973 oil crisis was taking place. And because of that, it quadrupled prices. There was a massive fuel shortage. And that could have been one of the reasons why the Bakersfield Parade didn't take place. But because of that, we came together at our district, our staff came up with some ideas, and one of those was to stipulate that it was a non-motorized parade. Non-motorized parades are not a common thing in this country, particularly for Christmas parades. There is a very large non-motorized parade in Tucson. It's usually around Western type of themes. Independence Day parades sometimes are non-motorized, but Christmas parades tend to be at nighttime and tend to be motorized events. And so because of that non-motorized stipulation, that is how we were able to carry out the parade in 1973 despite the oil crisis. We have never changed that aspect of the parade. We've kept that all 50 years. And it's part of the reason that I personally believe it makes the parade so special, is because it allows our entries and our attendees to really engage with each other. It's not about vehicles, it's not about honking, it's about interacting with the people that are walking down the way. And when we've invited people to come in and participate, we encourage them to do walking groups. It doesn't have to be a float, it doesn't have to be animals. We want people to connect with each other. That's the most important element of the season. We also think it's really important to keep highlighting the legacy of this parade because it takes place in Oildale, where our district was born. And Oildale will always hold a really important place in our heart. And this happens to be something that we can give to the community every single year. It's completely free to participate. It's completely free to attend it. And we hope that you guys come out, and hopefully we can learn a little more about the parade together.
Thank you. Fred, as an Oildale community member, please share your memories of the parade.
Wow, I can think back when I was a little kid. My mom brought me, of course, to the parade. I was probably 10 or 12 in the very beginning when it started in '73. And by the way, she was very good at detail in every little detail. And one detail I'm glad she mentioned is I'm glad they kept it unique to us here in Oildale, that we kept it no cars, no motorized vehicles, and stayed with that over the whole 50 years. I think that makes us a little different, a little special, a little unique. And that's nice that we can can say that, and it kind of, gives us a little pump in our step that, hey, we're a little bit different, but we're Oildale. Our parade is really great, and I think my wife and I have really enjoyed it more so in the last 10 years, even more so than even when I was a kid, because I guess when I got a little older, a parade was, you get to be a little bit of a teenager and you get a little too old, and then you figure, the parade is not for me. But in the last, I'd say 15 years or so, my wife and I now have really got involved a little more in the Oildale festivities and community and things. And we enjoy it now more than ever, even more than when I was a kid. And I like the way it's kept small, and it's kept right down North Chester. And several of the businesses, if not a lot of businesses, seem to get involved in it. We see some of the businesses, we know that they dress up in costume and they take part. And that's what makes it so much better than just a big, maybe the Bakersfield parade, which is big and it has over 120 entries. I'm not sure how many we have.
We've just about 60 this year.
And that's great. And other than having bad weather, that would be a bad thing, of course. But other than that, we have usually a great turnout, and we've been coming even when it was. I remember 10 years ago it was like 32 degrees, and there was frost on the ground, and we still came and enjoyed it. Just made sure we covered up good. But it's always been a blessing and a great thing for Oildale to continue on. I hope it continues on the way it is. It's a great tradition.
Mike, do you have any memories of the NOR Christmas parade?
Well, the big joke about the Oildale parade is there's 30,000 people in Oildale, and 15 are in the parade, and 15,000 come out and watch. Then the next year, the same 15 that were watching are in the parade, and the 15,000 that were watch. So they take turns every year watching and marching in the parade. So I was a Cub Scout, Boy Scout, and then I was in the standard marching band, Fighting Warriors, and then I was in the North High marching band. So we loved our parades, and that was always a chance to flirt with the baton twirler. And then with most of the parades in Bakersfield, with the horses going ahead of you, you had to be careful where you marched. But anyway, I have fond memories of the parade here. So.
Mike was not only in the band at North High, he was the drum major.
We're keeping that quiet.
Pat, I need all the goods on him. Let's talk after.
So Trisha's got pictures. That's why I send her a little check every month to keep that stuff out of space.
Heckler in the back.
Yeah.
Jeff, what about you? Do you have any special memories?
Yeah, I do. Thank you for that question, and thank you for taking the time, Kern County Library in Rathbun, to reminisce and talk about the history here. It's important that the community understand what we have here. It's really special. It's a slice of Americana to keep having these parades. And I've done parades up and down the valley and in Los Angeles, the big ones like the Rose Parade in terms of viewing. But I've also participated in small town America parades like Tulare, Porterville, Wasco, Bakersfield Christmas Parade, in Oildale. So it's really a testament to Oildale, particularly because we've got a big parade right over the bridge, literally over the bridge in Bakersfield. Yet this community puts on one of the biggest ones on par with the other little towns that I mentioned. It's really a testament to the Oildale groups, to NOR, to education, to the families, that they have something that's uniquely their own. That's what makes it special. In 72, I was, when did it start, 72?
73.
I was 2 years old in 73, so I don't have that long history. My recent history is through my predecessor, Supervisor Maggart. I participated in many of the parades there, also as a Kern High School District trustee. And now, as the current supervisor, this will be my first one. I'm looking forward to it. Happens to coincide with the 50th anniversary. And the walkability part of it, that is special. There's a connection there that you can go back and forth on both sides, see people in the eye, look at your friends and neighbor. You'd be surprised. Mike mentioned the 15,000 to 15,000. You do recognize people along the route, and I get work at the end of the parade. I have work to do. they give me assignments. That's how much of a connection there is. That people recognize each other, and I think that's special. That doesn't happen in other places.
Number two. So we're going to talk about the history of the community. And Mike, we'd like to start with you. Can you tell us about the history of Oildale and what makes it unique to other communities in Kern County?
Well, now you put me on the spot. Let's see if the little marbles rolling around. So I think in about 1919, a guy subdivided some land, and this area had 2 or 3 different names. And finally, in the early 1920s, it was incorporated as Oildale. And then,
Never incorporated.
pardon?
It was never incorporated.
Well, it was designated.
Just named
It was a designated place with a post office
Yeah, there you
in the 1920s. Thank you, Patricia.
Easy now.
That's what I like about Oildale. And I walk in here today. I've been gone 30 years. I walk in and I see Patricia. Oh, yeah, I was best man in your daughter's first wedding. Steve Ashley fixed my motorcycle 40 years ago. That's Oildale, right, Steve? Right, Patricia? Okay, see, okay. So, but the thing that is what was unique is, at least from growing up here, is that most of our dads and a lot of our mothers, most of the folks that I knew were involved in the oil industry. A few outliers were at Meadows Field, but back then people lived closer to their work. And my dad was a shell guy, and then we had this neighborhood where it was there were 10 houses and 10 houses, and in that little 20-house stretch, there were 35 boys, and the boys that were there all within a 4-year age span, and there were no girls. So I don't know what happened after World War II, but it was. So we had this incredible childhood where we played Little League. I was just saying to Jasmine, we were in the pool every day in the summer. And then I was once or twice a week, I was down at the Oildale Library. My mother would have to come with me, but she could only check out 6 books. So she'd check out another 6. So I could have 12. So as far as the history of Oildale, oil-centric, lots of small little businesses, drugstores, jewelry shops, all up and down North Chester. And a lot of those folks like the Wattenbargers are still here and they're still doing business.
And now you can check out 30 books.
How about that? Wow.
Fred, as a community member in Oildale, what was it like growing up here? What made this place special to you?
Oh, well, because I just didn't want to leave, I guess, and just stay here and tough it out. So I get all the jokes and from everybody. I'm going to follow this guy here, and I came along just a little bit after him. I think he's probably 10 years ahead of me or 8 years ahead of me, but we have a lot in common. But with the library, I went to the library as well. But people might remember, especially a couple of folks I see here that are a little older than me, the River Theater down on Chester, which was a big attraction for everybody here in Oildale to go to the movies. And I was just at that age where I just missed it, and it was closed. And then, of course, Buck Owens bought it and transformed it into his recording studio. And but we had so much good things here in Oildale. And I would shout out to my friend here, Steve Ashley, who's from the airport over here at Meadows Field. And Meadows Field has been such a big, important influence in Kern County as well as the oil. I think both of those two things have made Oildale prosper, and of course, money-wise, has kept the economy going. The airport was big, and they're going to celebrate, I think, in 1925, I think was when they started. So they're coming up on their centennial. And it was called, of course, it was called Kern County Airport number 1 at that time before Meadows Field. So that was huge, important in Oildale. But it was a different time. I grew up kind of almost, some of you older folks might remember Leave It to Beaver. I kind of think my childhood was a little bit like that, Leave It to Beaver or something. The black and white, just everything in the slow lane, just, go to school, ride your bike. You could stay out late, ride your bike. Didn't get into trouble much. There wasn't anything like there was now. We didn't even dream about the internet or anything like that. I had great parents. I think that had a lot to do with it. They always were interested in what I was doing, and they would try to keep me on the right track, focused, even though I would veer off a little bit once in a while. But I was just a normal kid, went to Beardsley School, like she mentioned, North High School. Stuck it out here in Oildale with my wife. We made our old house, my old parents' house, our house, and remodeled it into our little piece of heaven. And we do the best we can. We love shopping and doing our business in Oildale and getting our hair cut at the barbershop and going to Wattenbargers. And not much has changed for me. A lot of the businesses have gone down by the wayside, but we're hoping all the time that we can get some more new businesses to replace them, and that's where maybe I'll leave it and he will take over.
Perfect segue, although I think both of you forgot to mention how much time you spent in the parks. Parks and Rec system.
A lot.
So, yes, indeed. So,
Fred had a unique home. His parents had the egg ranch on Norris Road.
yes, correct.
Yeah.
On Norris Road, right there next to Knotty Pine. If anybody remembers that, I think a couple. And I'd like to make a nice shout out to Judy Scholes here, my good friend that knows a lot about Oildale history, and Patricia, who I've learned a lot years ago when I joined their foundation back in 2007 or so. And that's how I learned a lot of this history, and I've just enjoyed every bit of it.
Well, I hope if after the panel, if we do have time for Q&A, we can share some more of this information, because I'd like to hear more about the egg ranch. But if not, I'm hoping Fred will stay afterwards and be able to talk a little bit about his family home and more of his history. Jeff, like many communities, Oildale has been directly impacted by the industries in the area. Fred just shared with us how big oil has impacted the community. Actually, Mike shared that when he was speaking. And from your perspective, what has driven growth in the area and continues to drive growth?
So, great question. The oil industry currently is absolutely critical to sustaining those jobs, to sustaining the tax revenue for government, for sustaining Oildale. Now more than ever, our national security is dependent upon it. We always talk, you hear these buzzwords of just transition and going green and electric, which, that's fine if people want to do that. But what they don't realize is that the demand is still there for oil. We have such demand for decades that it is absolutely critical. And we've got these assets right here in Kern County, but not just in Kern County, right here in Kern River Field, right adjacent to Oildale, China Great Loop. So many good paying jobs. West Kern, now with the carbon capture on the horizon, it's not going to displace oil. That will sequester CO2, but it also gives oil a lifeline to be carbon neutral. So you're not abandoning oil. They can continue to do what they're doing it, and they can do it in a cleaner fashion simultaneously. So I have high hope for carbon capture not as a replacement, although the economics of replacement are great, but as a lifeline to oil. So that's one of the economics drivers. Another one is Oildale's proximity to the airport, to Thomas Terminal. It's growing. We're looking at adding new flights, international flights. Fresno does 6 flights a day to Mexico, to Guadalajara. We used to. We believe that the market's there. We're looking at restoring those flights. We're looking at more domestic options. We already have Dallas, Phoenix, Denver. We're looking at adding Houston, Salt Lake. And so that's good for Oildale. It attracts business. If you look at Amazon, if you look at logistics, if you look at the Hadco Steel Company, hospitality, there's a casino. I don't know what people's thoughts are on the casino, but there's also restaurants involved. There's also jobs involved. So all of that's economic activity. And then the most recent thing we're looking at is a business park west of the Amazon facility that the county's working on. And so that will add more logistics and more business, kind of like just a hub around the airport. So that, airport, oil, and then our proximity to Bakersfield, those are kind of 3 job markets.
Fantastic. Jasmine, now that we know a little more about Oildale, the Oildale community, and the factors that led to its growth, can you tell us a little bit about the creation of the North of the River Recreation and Parks District?
So North of the River Recreation and Park District, I kind of like to think about it very literally for people that aren't aware of where it takes place, but it's pretty much everything north of the river, as the name implies. But we were formed as a special district in 1955. A special district is usually formed as an independent government agency to fill some gap in services. So you see a lot of water districts, you see a lot of sewer districts. We have a lot of special districts in Kern County in general and in this area. So you will likely have interacted with the special district in some capacity at some point in time. Our district specifically, when it was formed in Oildale, was built to support recreation and park facility needs, to help the community recreate, have good places and spaces to play, have fun, be safe, and be healthy. And so that is why we are focused on the Oildale area very heavily. When we first began, we had about 22,000 residents within our district. We now have over 150,000 because of the areas that we've annexed into the district. So when we first began, it was just Oildale, but then we moved very quickly within a few decades over to Fruitvale, Norris area. We now extend all the way to the easternmost edges of Shafter. So we're a very large area. The southern part of our district goes all the way out to the Stockdale River Ranch area. Within our district, we have 24 parks. We have 3 community centers. We have a senior center, and we have 2 community pools. We have one of the most busiest senior centers in Bakersfield, and we serve the largest number of Meals on Wheels in the area. So we're feeding anywhere between 100 to 150 people on site at our senior center to upwards of 400 people every single day out of our Meals on Wheels program. We're actually right here where we're at, this library right next door to the very first park and facility that the district had. So that was our NOR park and our community pool. Our community pool opened up in 1957. So that is right next door, next to North High. And our district office was actually right there at NOR Park all the way through to about 6 years ago. That's when we added on and built out our administrative complex at the River Lakes Ranch Community Center off of Rosedale. And that was simply because we needed more space. And so we have from then continued to expand outward. In the very first few years of the district even being developed, we already had adult basketball, aquatics programming, baseball, softball, a co-op nursery, senior activities. We have always had a very robust program. And so we continue to try to bring that to the community as much as possible. When it comes to the parade, one of our elements of dedication beyond continuing in the Oildale area is that it continues to start right next to the very first facility that we ever had in this community, and we have no intentions of changing that. It is important to us to continue to start it from that home base right here at NOR Park.
Perfect.
I want to add something to you. When my first child was born in 55, and so when they got up to swimming age, we went to the swimming pool. And we would walk barefoot across the lawn to get there. And the oil would ooze up between our toes because those used to be oil sumps.
Sometimes there's still oozing.
So they were still oozing oil when first, that building when the swimming pools were built. And we'd have to be very careful with the oil that came between our toes.
I think it is a testament to this whole area of the community that everybody has either stories of interacting with oozing oil, or if you actually look back at some of the old, some of the historical histories, I mean, that's kind of what was characteristic visually of this area before it was developed as a city even. So yeah, that's a cool story.
For some reason, I'm thinking there's gold and then there's
Yep.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the parade and start with Mike. Can you please tell us about the economic and social climate in Oildale, Kern County, and the county in general in 1973 when the annual North of the River Christmas Parade first began?
Well, that's when I think we probably still had a very strong, viable commercial core. I think there were on North Chester, there were 4 pharmacies that, there were 2 jewelry stores. There was a lot of economic activity. And then, as Bakersfield started to push out west and push out east, the downtown Bakersfield, Oildale, parts of the older parts of town kind of really started to suffer. I'm still very concerned about that. I've already shared that with my the board of supervisors, because I was at a luncheon at Bolthouse Farms and I saw their plans to push Bolthouse housing, shopping centers all the way out to I-5. And what happens is when you do that, you start pulling out this way, then if you're not careful, then your urban core starts to die. So Oildale is still a viable community. There are still lots of people doing business here. I get my hair cut, and the lady that cuts my hair cut my mother's hair 40 years ago, Ruby, down on North Chester. She still cuts my hair. So there's lots of people doing business here. There's still lots of excitement about things. The old rustic rail over on Norris is a new honky tonk that's been brought back, and that's exciting if you're a country music aficionado. So there's still a lot of economic activity. Michael, can I tell a story for 1 minute? Am I okay? Okay. I just found out that Oildale almost started World War III.
Hey.
This is true. So if you go out Norris Road on the right, when you get over there by the sheriff's department, you're going to see a sawtooth building. The U-2 spy planes were built in that building. Gary Powers was shot down over Russia, forgot to take his cyanide tablet like he was supposed to in the 1950s. And with Khrushchev and Kennedy, or was Eisenhower and Kennedy, we almost went to World War III. And the plane that was shot down was made on Norris Road. So I just had to share that. There's a lot of history here that you really don't know about sometimes. That's here, that's not real evident. But to me, that's a fascinating story that all those U-2 planes came out of a tire factory behind Meadows Field.
I want to add
Good
to
story.
that. The librarian here at the time, Karen Liefeld,
Yes.
had an event at that YouTube factory
Yes.
during our 2009 centennial year,
Okay.
and we got a tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like you for our next panel.
Yeah,
Yes, she would be an added.
it's all,
asset.
it's probably right there in those books.
Yes, I would say.
Yeah.
And
Courtesy of
also, in 1973, I remember there was lines for the at the gas pump, right? Weren't
Yeah.
there also? I
Yeah.
remember vaguely. I was only 10, but I think that's why the parade, segueing into a question for Jasmine, was non-motorized. Can you tell us a little bit about what that first parade was like?
So the very first year that we offered the parade, it was non-motorized, like has been said. And the really big thing was that we wanted to feature the area, we wanted to feature the park. So it started off with Santa kicking off the parade. He led it down the way, and it ended over off of Ferguson, went down the way and stopped at Standard Park, which was one of our parks and continues to be one of our oldest parks in the district, as well as one of the older parks in Kern County. It was originally a Kern County owned park before it was ours. But at the end there, when Santa went there, he would go and give candy canes to the kids. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of characters that we are familiar with, like Smokey Bear and Woodsy Owl, and there's just all these wonderful elements. And so that very first parade, I think, was really just a testament to the idea that just because we don't have the money to have a whole bunch of vehicles in a parade doesn't mean we can't celebrate and have fun together. And that type of spirit and excitement and honestly problem solving has ended up being the most important attribute of the parade. So I think that that's something we have to look forward to with any type of programming or things that we're doing together as a community. Something can sometimes be born from complicated circumstances and ends up being incredibly valuable. So.
Fred, this question's for you. The parade route hasn't changed very much in the last 50 years. Can you tell us about the historic sites along the route?
Wow. How much time do I have? I might get involved here and just keep going. But yeah, my wife and I, she deserves a lot of the credit. Linda, I don't know where she is right now. She must have went somewhere. But she's the smart one of the group here. And she was able to, she knows all the computer stuff and all that. So she was able to locate a lot of the pictures. Of course, again, I will thank Karen Layfield, who was our librarian here for a few years. And she left, I think, in 2011. She was brilliant and fantastic. And she put together a lot of this history and most of it, and together with a lot of good Oildale folks that donated their pictures and their stories. And so she cataloged a lot of that and put everything together. And from that, I don't know, I wish more people would know that history section is here. I don't think a lot of people know it, because I think they would come and enjoy looking through a lot of the old pictures and the old books of what she has detailed and chronicled very meticulously, very perfect, getting everything just labeled, everything just right. And I think I learned a lot of that from her, and I learned a lot of the history from her too that was before my time. And in case we have a time afterwards, I made a couple of posters and I put them up there on these two easels, and that kind of details a little bit of the parade route and some of the changes that the businesses have gone through over the years. I put up some older pictures there that I was able to find. One of the most drastic changes, I think, and funny was, and I talked to the pastor, I wish he had come tonight, but I don't see him here. Church on the Way, which is directly across the street about from Zorbas. Used to be Pizzaville. I think many people remember Pizzaville, going in there and getting a pizza back in the 60s and the 70s, and they delivered pizza. And I have a nice picture there of what the building used to look like, and even they have an old Ford Thunderbird that they used to deliver, and it has their name on the side. And of course now it changed from a Pizzaville to, it was a bread bakery, and then it transformed into a church. And so it's quite a different change. And then several other businesses along the way. Of course, Coffee Covenant is a well-known business nowadays, and used to be Bank of America with a drive-up window. And I think then it became an insurance company for a short time, and then transformed into that Coffee Covenant that we all, I think, enjoy their good flavors of coffee down there. And they have a great guy, Randy Martin, that runs it. He's a terrific guy. Several other businesses have changed along the way. I put up some pictures there of the Old West Cafe that's there nowadays on North Chester, that was once called Mill Creek Cafe back in the 50s. I have a nice picture over there of that one. And if anyone doesn't know it, there's a nice little Founders Square right here behind Rite Aid of Oildale Founders Square, and our founder is Ferguson. That's the name I think you were trying to think of a while ago. He was one of our developers in the 1920s that segregated a lot of the land, separated, started to build, put in, oiled the streets as they called it, started to build the homes. And he's got a statue and there's a nice plaque of him right over here behind Rite Aid, in case anyone wants to see it. I've got a picture of it over here too as well. And I think it's my time, so I'll cut it off.
Well, I was going to say, we should have partnered with Pokemon Go and had them put little animals at all of the historic sites so we could get the younger generation, involved and invested. Thank you. Thank you all for your responses. Finishing up with Jasmine, how has the Parks District and Parade evolved over time?
So I think that we've talked quite a bit about it, but just to kind of emphasize, a lot about the parade actually really hasn't changed much. It is completely operated by our district. That's not really standard. A lot of parades are typically operated by like a nonprofit, or they're sponsored by a large-scale business. And so this parade is completely ran and put together and completely operated by our special district as an agency. One of the things that has changed is, like I mentioned before, Santa used to lead the parade. Now he's the finale. Another thing is we used to give out candy canes at the end of the parade. Honestly, the parade has grown too much. I can't even fathom how to carry that out. I tried to think about it a year ago. It wasn't going to happen. Another thing that's changed is that we actually have now a mega band that is a part of the finale right before Santa comes in. So North High School Band along with Beardsley and Standard come together as a mega band. So it's junior high kids along with high schoolers working together for months before this parade leads up. And it allows that different age groups to work together and allows them to work with a much larger scale band. It's part of the reason why the finale is always so strong with our parade, because we literally followed up with three different bands at the very end. Another thing that has really been exciting, at least in the last couple of years, is that for the very first time ever, we've streamed the parade. So a lot of parades tend to be broadcast. Ours haven't, because it's been more focused on the experience in person. But last year, we streamed our parade for the very first time on Facebook, so that those that are either homebound or cannot attend the parade or are busy or want to see a close-up of their kid again have the ability to watch the parade. And we've brought that in-house onto our Facebook page. And so if you want a sneak peek of what the parade looks like this year, you can actually go to our Facebook and see last year's. And we plan to continue doing that and continue to bring in technological advancements and elements to help bring it further to the community. Another thing that's changed is that we technically have less entries than we had when we first started the parade, but we have more people that walk in this parade, more than double than we had when the parade began. So we have even more people that participate every single year. In a lot of ways, like I said, the parade is very similar to the way it was when it started. And when you look at photos and you see that, you can see that the memories are very similar, particularly because it remains non-motorized. Our district, on the other hand, has changed monumentally. We're huge now. We're a very large organization. We have a lot of parks. You know, about a decade ago, give or take, I don't know the exact year off the top of my head, but we finished up our Polo Community Park, which is one of the largest parks in town. It's huge. And we have so much going on at our district. And I would say that that's probably the biggest change, is just that we serve such a larger swath of the Bakersfield community than when the parade started. But beyond that, we continue to look for ways to evolve while still maintaining the legacy of something like this, because this really does go to the roots of our organization.
And just a couple quick questions. The theme of the parade this year?
Yes, so the theme of the parade this year is A Christmas Carol, parades of past, present, and future. So we really wanted to celebrate the idea that what we have done in the past is very valuable, what we're experiencing today, and that the future of the parade is guaranteed with our organization. Every single year we change our theme. For the last 10 years or so, we've done some creative themes, like we did a Candyland Christmas, and last year we did a Grinchmas Christmas. When the parade first started, it was more of like a Christmas heritage, because it was focused on all those storybook characters. So the first 5 years or so was all about storybook tie-ins and children's learning and storytelling and creativity. And so now we focus on bringing in all these wonderful holiday stories that people are excited about.
And then quickly, will you also be streaming on YouTube or?
We will stream on Facebook this year. We've already done a few things to hopefully make it an even stronger experience. And we'll also be featuring our sponsors that have helped support this year's parade.
And then also YouTube or only Facebook?
Just Facebook.
Okay, just Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Do you have a YouTube channel?
Not currently, no.
Okay. Okay, question number 4. We are going to talk about the future of the community, north of the River Parks District, sports, and I'm going to start with Jeff. As Vice President of the Kern Athletic Fencing Foundation, how do you see the role of parks in promoting the health and well-being of the community, particularly in the Oildale community as the District 3 Kern County Supervisor?
Can you repeat that once more?
As the Vice President of Kern Athletic Fencing Foundation, who worked with us on our event at the Old Memorial Library, it was a fantastic experience.
Good.
How do you see the role of parks in promoting the health and well-being of the community?
Thank you. So parks are so important, particularly here in Bakersfield, for children to get out, to run, to exercise. That coupled with technology, even my son, and I'm guilty of this. You know, he's on that PS5. He's playing Fortnite. It's like I've got to use a crowbar to get him out. And the parks offer, and you know, I live on a very busy street. In my day, I could play touch football, kick the can. Those days are over. I wouldn't even let my son go on the street. This is the traffic's too dangerous. We live in different times, but parks are a critical role. And even in a county, you know, County of Kern is a mid-sized suburban county in terms of classification. There's urban, rural, and suburban. We're suburban. But even a county of our size, we're enormous. And did you know that we have parks, of course, Hart Park, Panorama, various parks throughout the county. But in a county our size, we do not offer any recreation programs. We have a parks district, a parks department that's coupled under general services, but we have no recreation. So special districts like north of the river are so important because that's the vehicle, and we have so many offerings. And we did partner Kern Athletic Fencing Foundation. We did offer fencing as one of your activities in OR. We also offered it at Standard. We worked with local school districts to give students an opportunity to try a unique sport, a sport that's difficult, a sport that's costly, a sport that most people don't have access to. And it's great to put a weapon in their hand, to get some exercise.
You didn't just say that, did you? Put a weapon in
Well, they call it weapon.
Okay.
But it
That
doesn't
didn't sound too good.
put
Equipment.
the equipment.
FA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're learning the cognitive part, the health part, and but back to parks, very important that they have access to parks and healthy spaces.
Do you fence?
I did. I used to.
You did.
I still can.
With the weapon.
Foil.
At every county board meeting, don't you?
Yes.
Every day.
Yes, indeed.
I do foil.
Fred, as a community member, how have you and your family utilized parks and park services?
Well,
north of the
wow.
river?
As a young kid, we were talking earlier, and we kind of did the same things too. I use the parks a lot. I played basketball in several of the parks where you go in and you twist the thing, and the light would come on and stay on for a certain time, and you could play your basketball at night. I had all my friends, and we'd go and play basketball for a couple hours at night. We used several of the parks at that time. I used to swim at the Beardsley Pool, which is now a skate park. Kind of sad to see the pool go. A lot of us my age and all that, we all grew up and went there and swam, learned how to swim or tried at least to take lessons there. And believe it or not, it was like a quarter or even 15 cents or something, and you would go and you could swim like all day. Unbelievable in today's world. Of course, well, I don't know. We used the parks in those days were the things to do. Of course, the library too as well was a big place for me too as well, and the old library, of course, before this one. When I grew up, I went to North High. They were just building this one. I think it completed after I left North High. I think it was 81 when they finally opened this one. So all I remember was the little one down the street. And side note, if anybody's interested, see me afterwards or something. I happened to write a couple of little short stories a few years ago, and I think I was lucky enough the Californian printed them. And then I did a little story on the library back writing it as a kid growing up in like the 5th grade or so, and my experiences. I also wrote a little story on the River Theater and tried to capture all the history of that from the very beginning when it opened in 1939. And maybe another story I wrote was about the depot on Norris Road and its history and how it was moved there and all that. So if you're interested in any of that, maybe you'll see me after the show.
So basically, he segued from parks to libraries due to an injury.
Yes. Okay.
You need to add it. Oh, just as a side note, when this library closed for renovation, the first thing I said was, those aren't going into C trains, those are going to my office until it comes back. And I made sure that they were protected.
Yes.
I know how important it is and what you guys did to make that happen.
Oh, I also forgot, I played Little League in 1972, Oildale Kiwanis, and we won the championship. I was 10 years old, so I still have the picture and the trophy and everything. So
Is that in the
I
Bible?
don't think so, no. That's in my own home collection. Yeah.
Okay, Mike, and this is the final question of the panel. How do you see Oildale and the wider north of the river community evolving over time?
I had the great fortune of being a school superintendent in small rural communities. So I was in Auburn, California, beautiful place, and they said, you'll never find another place like Auburn. We have a high school here. There's barbershops downtown. Kids ride their bicycles down to the river. I'm going, this sounds real familiar. Then I go to Sonora, same thing. This is a small town. We got one high school. Kids get on their bicycles. They ride down to the river. You'll not find anything like this anywhere else in the world. Then I'm talking to my mother-in-law. She's from East Aurora, New York. You'll never find anything like East Aurora. There's one high school. Kids ride their bikes down to the river. So I'm sitting there going, okay, well, I think I've seen this before. So the thing we have to remember, we have to celebrate, and we have to support is that this is a small, encapsulated community. And there's safety in that, there's security in that, but there's also a lot of challenges. And so the thing I have to do is continually remind myself how proud I am to be from Oildale. I've lived all over the world. I lived in West Africa, I lived in Central America, I worked in Argentina. All 5 of the men in my wedding went to North High School. Wow. You know, and I'm just saying, there's something about who you grow up with and where you came from that's important, and you shouldn't forget that, and you should celebrate.
Well said, well said.
Anything you'd like to add?
No, that was a fantastic
Brilliant.
answer to the question.
Great, well, thank you all for being here, and if you all would like, do we have, what time is it? We have 4 minutes for a Q&A.
Okay.
Speak Q&A.
Any questions?
Yeah, are there any questions?
Jeff,
Any questions
Jeff
out
has to
there?
leave, so if anybody has a question for Jeff.
Yeah.
Lots of questions.
Do
I
you
got a
have
question for
questions-
Jeff if
Do you have
nobody
questions for
does.
Jeff? Because Jeff has to leave at
I would
5.
stay, but I have to be at the Liberty Bell.
Hey.
You and I can talk anytime.
Oh.
You can talk.
I get that. Well, I want to give kudos to Jeff. He was the assistant to Mike Maggard during our centennial year, 2009.
Yep.
And they did all kinds of good stuff in Oildale during that time. Tell me Riverview, we got curbs and gutters. Tell me what else, Jeff?
We did the whole Centennial streetscape, the
Yep.
stage, the lighting, the furniture.
Benches,
benches.
lights, yeah.
Nowadays, you have to be careful with benches. You have to do them the right way.
Recently, you did the Wall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
Wall
we
of
did
Fame,
the
Johnny
Oildale
Jeff.
Wall of Fame honoring special people from Oildale. Our first induction was Merle Haggard, Buck Owens, and Kevin Harvick, and that's something that we can build upon in the future. But if you go to the streetscape at North Chester and Norris on the far southern section, you'll see a new wall now with the 3 plaques and the designation.
That's right.
I've got 2 new names for you now.
There's a lot of good names. Yeah.
Patricia Puskovich comes to mind.
Gerald Haslam has been offered
He's
up.
been mentioned. Yeah.
Some other, yeah.
Richard Cook, Dick Cook, CEO of Disney Pictures, grew up in Oildale.
That's
Dick
correct.
Cook.
All these people that tell me and my friends and family that ruin me with jokes and, oh, you live from Oildale, how can you stand it there and this and that. And I try to think, and I try to tell them, you know, about the good things of Oildale. And it really tickles me when I run into somebody, I'm talking, you know, I like to talk, so everybody knows. And I visit with people all the time, and that's how you learn things. And so I learn things, and I hear that, oh, you went to North High and you were class of 1960 something, and you actually turned out to be somebody great. And I love to hear that. That tickles me because you hear all the bad stuff. And we need to hear a lot more, like you said, of the good stuff and champion Oildale. And it really makes me feel good that I run into people and they actually made something out of their life, and they didn't just become a drug addict and got out of prison like we know so many have been. And we hear all the bad, and we need enough of that. We need to hear a lot more of the good, and that's why we kind of came up with the idea for the Wall of Fame, is we were trying to champion some of the good products that came out of Oildale, that we can start with those 3 names, and hopefully we can add some more and advertise the good.
The other thing, Jeff, you guys were part of creating the trunk or treat, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, that's been a big success.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's 13 years. Actually, I've been doing it for 13 years. It's longer.
Since the beginning. Judy Scholes has told me that she started the very first year. Is that right, Judy?
We moved here in 1939.
But you started your trunk or treat in the first year, I think,
Yeah, you've been
giving candy out every year. Yeah.
We've had about
we had some bad people here in Oildale.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the kind you were just talking about. And so we were trying to give a safe place for our kids to go without running into sex offenders.
Right,
and,
exactly.
and we've got strong police presence. Sheriffs participate. Fire participates. And we had about 3,000 kids this last one.
Yeah, it was very packed.
All free.
Our third district supervisory office has done wonderful things.
Oh, thank you, Pat. Really, it's an honor.
It's 5 o'clock, and I do want to mention that the local history room is open at the BA Memorial Library. Please come visit. I welcome any memorabilia or contributions. We're looking for yearbooks. We're doing a call for yearbooks by donation in the library. We have microfilm. We're the archive for the Bakersfield Californian. We also have a digital database of photographs, multimedia, and also newspaper archive, where you can search for obituaries and other articles and things like that online, which I'd be happy to show you. We also have a vault with some very precious first edition books and other memorabilia, and we are inventorying everything. So if you're ever curious and want to learn more, please call the Memorial Library. And we have an event tomorrow. We've got Robert Peterson with Notorious Bakersfield, who will be at the local history room at 5:30, and he'll be talking about his new book that he just published, and talking about how he utilizes the local history room to do his research, and then also about some of the cases, more interesting cases that he's worked on. Finally, Jasmine, can you tell us when and where for the parade?
So the parade is this Saturday, so less than a week away. It is going to be at 10 a.m. sharp is when it starts. So you can set up camp anywhere between over there off of Stockton all the way down North Chester to Minner Avenue. I highly recommend that you show up early to get parking and to walk in and get as close as possible. Every year it gets bigger, and we are blocking off more roads to continue to make it as safe as possible. And so because of that, you want to give yourself ample time to find a spot and to arrive on time. If you cannot physically attend, you can watch it live on Facebook. And until then, we also have, beyond that paper brochure on our website, we also have a timeline of the parade, along with links to historical articles and information about the historical landmarks that Fred and Linda put together for us.
Back of this right here.
Yes, there's a QR code and a website on the back to access
We have
it.
those here?
Mhm.
Yes, I do.
They're right here on the table.
Yeah, they're on the table. What's the weather forecast?
Yes.
I don't know, but rain or
Oh.
shine, we will be there.
Is
It
it?
doesn't stop us.
That's good.
So,
Yeah, we don't want rain, that's for sure.
yeah, it's beautiful when it happens to be sunny,
Yeah.
but we have gone out there when it's rained and we won't stop. So,
No wind either.
Okay, good to know. Rain or shine.
Yeah, for sure.
I graduated from Stanford School in 1951.
mhm.
Judy had graduated around that time, a little before, didn't she, Judy?
Just a little.
Mr. Rathman was my principal.
Yes.
Mhm.
He was the finest gentleman, and his wife was the finest lady you would ever hope to know in the whole world. The only recreation we had at that point was the vice principal, Mr. Rulon Peach, set up ping pong tables out in the front of the auditorium standard, and we had summer recreation. So when North of the River came along to create parks and recreation, it was such a blessing to us because by then Mr. Peach wasn't here anymore to give us Oildale kids something to do in the summer.
But you were at the library, right?
Pardon me?
Were you at the library?
Well, heck, yes.
I worked for the library for many years, and I've heard nothing but good things about Mr. Rathbun. Honestly, nothing but good things. And so it is a joy to continue to work in the same community that he worked in. But beyond that, we actually work directly with Standard School District. We directly work on the after-school program. It's called the Standard Explore program. And we work with multiple organizations, including the Fencing Association. But Standard now has one of the most robust after-school programs, and it's been made possible through amazing administration at Standard, as well as NOR's collaboration. And so I can say that I know that sometimes when we're not physically there seeing it, I must say that we have some amazing programs in this community, and they are really benefiting kids. So, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for that.
Thank you.